students. And I'll get in touch with you when you come back. We'll just discuss.
If you sit with me, then I can show you a couple of stuff, and then whichever.
So we've offered this to Swami, and we'll offer it again and again and again. Welcome. Welcome to this program, Conversations in Spirituality. And I'm Samuel Sandweiss, and today I'm speaking to Abhimanyu Kaul, who has been a student at Swami's University in India. And I was very interested in hearing what the particular experiences are that the students have, and if their lives change in their experience with Swami. But first, let me ask you, where are you from? What are you doing? What do you do for a living?
Sairam, thanks for this opportunity. First and foremost, I would like to tell you, once a student, always a student, because we learn every minute and every day of our life from Bhagwan. I passed out my Masters in Commerce in 1990 from Prashanti Nilayam, and then I worked for a decade in Delhi before I came to Canada. I'm right now presently based in Toronto, and I recently started a company called Values in Action.
Values in Action.
Promoting values in life and living in corporates and colleges, schools.
Well, is this course for colleges and schools or for business? What is it?
For both. It is basically a format, a module which we created to practice values, to show the importance of values in our day-to-day life and how they can transform and make us better person.
One sometimes wonders, or one may wonder, why Swami has a business college at an ashram, or at his ashram, at a spiritual center. What do you think business has to do with spirituality, with values?
See, what Bhagwan tries to teach us, and he explains very clearly, is that everything is spiritual life. Our demarcation of life from business, personal, official and spiritual is all wrong, because we are same human being which goes through all these actions and activities. So what his intent is, how to make life spiritual, how to understand that every element of our life is spiritual, because we are basically the spiritual beings.
What do we mean by that? What do we mean by that we're a spiritual being?
See, it's a very beautiful analogy which Bhagwan always says, that, you know, like there is electricity on the wire, but how do you know? The same electricity flows, but when you put the bulb in, you can realize that electricity is there. We all have that energy which flows around all of us, but the moment we have this body and awareness, we realize that. And this body is a chance and occasion for us to learn about that truth. Once we live with that concept and try to pursue our life with that awareness, then whichever activity we undertake in life, whether it is going to school, whether it is going to work, business, any profession, marriage, children, you will see that the whole attitude of living changes.
Well, do you mean that it's a mistake for us to think that we're a body? There is actually something that is powering the body. There is something that is behind our social and our material life, and that's called spirit, or that's called God?
In fact, you can say that in many words. People call it energy, people can call it God, spirit, whatever you want to call it. But the fact is that energy source is same in all of us. But to make it, just say it like that, it becomes a little philosophical statement which does not translate into practice. So that is where he comes in to show that as long as you have that awareness of body, you have the power of discrimination, which is a part of consciousness, which is part of God. So in the physical level, as long as we believe that I am this body and I am working through this body, I have to use my discrimination. So when you have that, when we are in that bondage, then it's our responsibility to understand how to conduct, how to use this power of discrimination.
Well, do people in the business school actually learn or have some kind of experience that we're something other than our physical and a social self? Does this business college teach such a profound thing, that there is something behind our life, something very...
To tell you honestly, it is not taught as a subject, or it's not taught something separately. You learn, business school has a business course, We learn exactly the same business administration as anybody else would do. Courses are taught same way, but the teaching methodology and the environment of the university is different. That integrates this knowledge of awareness. So you can teach the same mathematics or commerce or management or administration, but when you teach with the flair of values, the flair of knowledge of spirit, then the whole understanding and approach to management changes.
Well, I'd like to take a look at just how a business student gets the idea that there is something more fundamental about life than just business or social or the body, and begins to want to teach a course in values. How do you go into a business course and come out wanting to teach values in business? What happened to you in this school that gave you that orientation?
See, the basic thing in business school, they teach you there are 5 M's: man, money, material, and all that. And Bhagavan taught us that behind anything, what is common and the basis is man. He says, if you, his beautiful statement is, the proper study of mankind is man. So if you study man, you can study everything. You automatically learn about life. If you want to manage anything, any business, if you really look at deep into it, then you will realize that we are actually managing men. We are not managing products, materials. They get managed if you know how to manage man. So the whole focus becomes humanistic, if I may call so. So man management is the word which Bhagavan himself coined. When he gave us the first discourse on management, that was a phenomenal discourse in which he quoted all the eminent people from business, and he highlighted how they gave those interpretations, like Peter Drucker, Maslow. He quoted them and he gave their explanation how they gave at that time what was right and what was wrong in their explanation. And then he brought us down to saying that all that's fine, but unless and until you concentrate on man, which is the basis of any business, any activity, you will never be able to become a good manager. So he defined the whole manager in a very different way, and then coined this term and said man management is the true management. And then he gave the philosophy of manager. So that's how it went. So basically man is the most important factor.
Well, let me diverse for a second. You said that Swami taught this course. Now, we understand that he's the chancellor of this university, but I wasn't aware that he was actually a teacher. He would go into the classroom. Does he prepare for his lectures? Does he? What kind of a teacher is he when he goes into the classroom?
It's a good question. I'm sure people would love to know that. Bhagavan actually took classes, if I may say so. Of course, he does not have to come in a particular time to take, but he offered himself, like he was talking to us, and we requested and prayed that, why don't you come and please share with us and teach us? And he obliged, and he would come every weekend on Sundays for almost 2 hours. And I'll just give you how he comes. He comes inside and he said, boys, okay, what do you want me to talk on? So the dean of the faculty or the vice chancellor would introduce the topic and would just pray, Swami, please speak on administration today. Or Bhagavan, speak on management. And he would start talking on it. And he would, while talking, he would explain not only the definitions, what we are used to hearing, but he would give his own understanding and interpretations of it and teach you wonderful philosophy. And those philosophy will be from ancient times till today. Whatever the good practices have happened around the world, he will quote. So he has quoted from Chanakya, he has quoted from Japanese philosophy of management. He's very fond of those things. Wherever there is a goodness, he will quote it and tell you that follow that. There is a sense, there is an essence, there is a value in those, and he would highlight those parts. So he was a phenomenal teacher. Literally.
Well, where does he have the time to prepare for such far-ranging talk?
He is the source of knowledge. Whatever he speaks becomes the knowledge.
Where do you get this idea that Swami is the source of knowledge?
It's a personal experience. I'm not saying just because of saying it, but because we have seen it. He's a very practical God, if I may call so, because he does not teach you something which he does not practice, and which is a phenomenal experience, because most of the teachers would tell you, but you don't get a chance to see whether they really practice that or not. But here is a phenomena who not only says, but he lives that, what he speaks. And that he has shown. In fact, as far as my observation goes, he first practices, then he teaches.
But how can he get knowledge about a Japanese businessman, a Greek shipper, an American movie producer? How does he get such knowledge?
As I said, he's God.
Now, let's stop for a second, because most of the people listening to the program, that's a leap, you know. Why would you say, let's say you have the experience, you think that he is God, or you think he's something much more than a human?
See, if you look at his physical life, let me put it straight, if you look at his physical life, at the age of 14 he announced his mission of life. As a child, youngster, he announced his mission. That time nobody even had a clue what he was speaking. As a teenager, somebody speaking like, my devotees are waiting for me, I have a big mission in life to accomplish. And he left the home and started his mission. And he studied in a village, which is still a village if you go today. And if you call it, he studied till 7th grade in that class. So obviously there is no physical connection in which we can say that he must have acquired this knowledge from XYZ places, or he must have read some books and got it, or he had some teachers who fed him into this knowledge. There is nothing, no physical evidence for it. And because we have been fortunate to live around him, we see that how busy he is physically too. From morning till night, he has hardly any time to himself also. He's constantly busy doing things for others, helping others. He's constantly working. So all that knowledge which he shares, which he talks about, which he interprets, certainly proves that he has them by birth. He has not acquired from anybody. He has not done any penance, he has not done any spiritual practices to acquire any knowledge. He hasn't been to any university, but he talks about science. He talks about science better than scientists can talk. He talks about management as even no businessman can think.
Well, do the students see this, and are they impressed by it? Do they have this personal experience that he knows things that no human being, in the way we understand the accumulation of knowledge, nobody would understand, that he seems to have this at his fingertips?
See, okay, let me explain it this way. When he talks on a discourse, then most of the people are hearing him speak. So they would get an impression that, okay, somebody can prepare and come and talk. So they don't know the background that he speaks extempore every time. But how do we get this conviction that he knows? He does not need to prepare. He's not picking up information. The knowledge is in him. That comes through personal experiences. Like he would tell you something which nobody on earth would know except you, because you would have done that act sitting in a corner of the room in some part of the world.
Do you have a personal experience like this?
Quite a few.
Can you relate something?
Okay, I'll relate to you one in which, because rest is something which is very personal. But anyway, when I was in my 11th grade, I joined school. Bhagavan gave us very clear instructions how to live, how to conduct. In fact, he was very particular about discipline. He's very, very particular about discipline. He was to the point that he would tell you exactly what to dress, how to dress, whom to converse, whom not to talk, how to make friends, who should be your friends. So he's very particular about how you are groomed at that age, because that is a very, very critical age of a man, teenage, in which we can easily, slip away. So he was very particular, and he made a point to me, and he personally told me that no old friends, because I was very flamboyant and I meet a lot of people and I'm kind of a friendly person. I had a good bunch of old friends, and I knew that when I'm going first time back to my hometown where I lived in Bihar before my father was working there, so I was sure I would meet up with all my friends. But before I left, he said, no old friends. And his command is command, so we have to follow that. And he gave me a couple of more instructions, but just this one I'll narrate to you. So I went back home and I made it a point that I should not disclose that I have come, because if word goes through, then boys will surely come and try to meet me. And it would be impolite not to talk to them. But somehow, word of mouth, something happened. People got to know that I am in town, and my friends landed in my home. As a courtesy, I met everybody and I spoke to them. I spent good time with them. But somehow my reactions and my conversation were so restricted that those people got a hint that I'm not same as I was before I left to Puttaparthi. My whole reaction, my behavior had changed. There was a huge transformation in me, which more than me others realized. So most of the boys did not come second time to meet me. It was a natural fallout. So I didn't have to really attempt to that. But what happened among all the friends, one of my friends used to come to my mother and father in my absence, because he felt that I was alone with them, and now since I've gone, so they may miss something. So he used to come and visit my mom and say, "Aunt, do you need any help?" And he would just come and say hello to them. And my parents liked it because they were missing me. So it was kind of a friend coming and meeting. So they would always feel that they could relate me to him. Mm-hmm. So my mom introduced me and said, "See, this boy was coming. And, in your absence, he always used to come and ask for me that if I need any help." And in my heart, I felt a little obligated to him. I thought he's the only guy who has taken extra time to come and visit my parents, and I had my own reasons to believe. So I thought that I should be a little bit more courteous to him. So I said to him, you are a really good friend of mine. Thank you for, visiting my parents in my absence. This conversation I had, and he was the only guy who came to me a couple of times in my stay. And we hung out a little bit. Because my mom said he was good, so I continued that. But matter was forgotten. There was nothing extra than that. And I went back to Parthi. And it so happened, after a few months, Bhagwan called. We were sitting together in the interview room, and we were together. And as soon as I entered, Bhagwan said, "How was the holiday?" I said, "Swami, very nice." And he said, "One friend came." So I was like, "Swami, many visited." But he said, "No, one friend came." So he identified out of all 20-25 people who visited me, only one which I acknowledged as friend. And then I smiled at him. He just nodded. He said, "Don't worry." Because it was an acknowledgement that yes, I did not treat him as more than a friend, but I offered the courtesy because of my mother. By the same token, he also showed me that he knows what I do in my life.
For a Western audience, they may think that this level of discipline is a little restrictive. Does a student feel that? First of all, why do you think you should be so disciplined to the point where Swami would say, "No more old friends"? What does that mean? How does a Westerner, from their background, understand? Does Swami not want you to see anybody? Does he not want you to have a friend? Do you sense that Swami is that restrictive?
Truly speaking, it's not restriction. Once you are into the system, then you realize it is not a restriction at all. See, it's very important to understand what freedom means. Sometimes we misinterpret freedom and go extreme, and we don't know how to come back. Bhagavan gives a very good example for it. He said, when you sow a seed and a small plant is coming, you cover it up with hedges, you put manure, you protect it, you put water, everything, and you see to it that nothing comes closer. No animal should walk onto it, no child should come close. So you protect it. The same plant, when it becomes a tree, then not only you remove all the obstruction around it, you even throw stones at it to get the fruit. But the tree gives you shade. So he says, when you are young, we are not competent and capable enough to decide what is right and wrong for us. So these restrictions, so-called restrictions, which is basically a disciplined lifestyle, which is provided to you. So initially you may feel it is too much of restriction, but as you go through that process, then you realize it enhances your beauty, it enhances your growth, it fastens your understanding. It is an amazing lifestyle. And once you have crossed that hedge, then you realize that he doesn't put restriction. I'll give you a small illustration. See, he was very particular about not watching television. He doesn't like young children to watch unnecessary television. We had TV in a hostel, but it was like a regulated watching. He will tell you what to watch, what not to watch. But general television, he had no interest. He would say television. It was like it's a wish, it is poison. So don't watch it, because at that tender age, your mind is very receptive, so you can get carried away. So he said, don't watch TV, and I didn't watch TV for 5 years. Not even news I watched. The same Bhagwan who stopped me from watching televisions and interacting with friends, after I passed out from the college, I joined a television company and my profession. And I used to be in media, doing event management, corporate planning, advertising. So I was in film industry, at the back end of film industry. And our job entailed holding parties, doing shows, film launches. So all the film industry people were hanging around with us. So in that den of, I was in that thickness of this whole activity. And that next year when I went to Bhagwan, casually he asked me, where are you working now? So I had a split second thought in my head that if I'm going to tell him that I'm in television industry now. And that was a typical industry wherein everybody, men, women, drinking, dancing, and there I am with a Coke in my hand with them. So I lived my life, but I knew my limitations and my lifestyle. Same Bhagwan asking this question to me today, saying, where do you work? And I told him, Swami, I'm in television industry, doing event management. Bhagwan said, good. So the restriction at one age is required for growth and for betterment. It builds your personality, it builds your character. But once you are ready, then those restrictions are invalid. They don't matter.
Well, the whole subject of discipline is treated much differently in Swami's college than here in the U.S. From the point of view of a student from Swami's college, looking at the way Western culture handles discipline, do you have some kind of a thought about that?
I have been fortunate to interact with the youth here, even in Canada and in US both. And I firmly believe the kids are good. They are amazing. Because in spite of all this environment, once they know what is right and what is wrong, they follow it. But because of the environment influence, they fall into a lifestyle. And when I interact with them and I give them the direction and I see amazing difference, they become more restrictive disciplined than I am.
How important is it for the development of our personality that we do know what's right and what's wrong, and that we diligently and with discipline follow the right? Because this is Swami's teaching. How important do you think that is?
It is very important. But more important is to understand what is right. Because what is right for me may not be right for you. And that is the dilemma which all of us play, even in personal life and professional life. A boss says to do that, and I feel from my limited knowledge that he's unethical, and I'm confronting. Whereas from his standpoint, he's ethical because he's doing what business demands. So this conflict is not more of what is right, what is wrong, but it is right versus right. And it could be a lesser right versus more higher right. That understanding is important.
Everybody has their own responsibility to develop their discrimination, their conscience. That's a very serious part of Swami's teaching, that the conscience is a very, very important part of our mental process, and that has to be finely tuned and refined. So now, discipline at the college, the students look like they're very much taken with wanting to follow discipline. And as a teenager, there's all kinds of temptations in our culture here. What experience do they have with Swami that really motivates them, that I should listen to him enough to discipline myself and try to lead a path that is the so-called right path? To understand the importance of the right path.
I would like to bring it at importance of a teacher or a leader in this. See, why do youth follow a star? Everybody has a star worship phenomena around the world. If I like soccer, I'll worship the soccer captain. But unfortunately, such leaders are not true leaders. There is an attraction for them because of certain personality trait. He's a good sportsman, so I like him. He's a good actor, so I like him. But in the personal life, most of these people don't stand the test of character. So that is why when the youth follow these kind of people, they get misled. Because they only see one goodness in them and they chase them. But as they chase them more closely, they realize, oh, he does so many negative things, and they get lost there. So it's very important to train these kids to understand whom to follow and whom not to follow. That is the first important thing, because that motivates. If I like you, then I will follow you. And unfortunately today the glamour world drains us out into a different direction. So what Bhagavan does there, he makes himself so attractive that we tend to follow him.
How does he do that?
See, he is very personal to each and every individual. You may be surprised that thousands of children study there, and each one would feel that he belongs to him, that he is his. That's the level of interaction with Bhagavan has with each and every student. So it is not that if I have to talk to Bhagavan or send something, I have to talk to somebody else to tell him. There are no intermediaries, there are no secretaries of Bhagavan there. He is directly with each one. This confidence is amazing.
Could you tell how that developed in you? You come to the campus. You knew a little bit about Swami before you came?
Yes, I was.
Did you have that kind of personal experience with him?
No, not before.
How did it develop with you?
I would say, first it was fascination. Now, thinking about the past, I can relate to it and say that yes, it was not that awareness or the knowledge of him being something great, God or whatever. It was just an attraction. The way he was moving around, the way he was conducting, the way he was taking care of each one of us, starting from how do we sleep, how do we eat, what do we eat, whether the food is good.
Would he come to the
everywhere. He would come to the kitchen to watch the food, he will test the food, he will give the menu. He would in fact make the menu for us.
Well, would he walk around the hospital with the boys all the time?
Yeah.
How much time would he spend?
That's amazing. In my time, I know at least a couple of times in a month he would just come into the hostel, go into rooms to check how the rooms are, whether we are keeping it neat and clean, whether do we require anything or not. He would walk into the dispensary of the hostel to check if everything is intact, if any sick boys are there. He would go into the kitchen to see if the food is cooked properly, hygienic or not. He would make the menu himself for us initially, so that he led the precedence. He made it on his own.
So you're seeing the chancellor of the university coming, checking the kitchen, checking all the rooms. So you're saying that's a little unusual. So what makes that so attractive, though, that you'd start to want to follow?
Because see, in the normal world, as you can understand, it is very difficult even to see a genuine smile. It is so difficult even to acknowledge a person. If he's smiling at you, we always think that he needs something from me to smile back. And here you find a person of that stature, even if you look at him on a physical level, a vice chancellor of a university, whom millions come and worship literally. The ministers stand in queue to talk to him.
The ministers? You think Prime Minister, President?
Prime Minister, Presidents, they are queuing up to talk to him. They are craving for an appointment for 2 minutes. When you see the 1,000 people sitting and waiting for his glimpse, and there he is spending hours with us, talking about food, talking about what is your homework, talking about seating style, talking about how to stand and give a speech, teaching us some basic stuff. It touches you.
Did you feel the love coming through that? Do you see, this wasn't put on, this was something that was very genuine, heart to heart?
If I may say that, after you experience his love, his care, I won't be exaggerating by saying that we tend to forget even own parents' love. But the beauty of it is, the more we get attracted towards him, he makes you respect your parents more and more. We tend to respect each and everybody around us more and more, because he teaches you that style. And his love overwhelms. There is no pretension in Bhagavan.
Can you even explain? I mean, he comes into a room and people are transformed by it. What is it about that figure that can take these boys that are coming into a college and make them take heed, look, and actually want to move toward that?
See, this is an experience. I would say these cannot be explained only by words, because the phenomena to experience peace, just for example, we do a lot of stuff to experience peace. We pay money to learn meditation. We spend $1 million to go to a farmhouse and buy a remote house to sit to experience peace, and we still don't get it. We spend thousands to run around continents to figure out a calm place in a quiet corner to relax, but still we are restless. But so when you go to His presence, even without His looking or talking to you, something dawns on you and you experience that amazing peace in you, that tranquility which sometimes disturbs yourself because you're not used to that peace, and you wonder what happens. And I've seen many, the genuine expression comes out as by tears. You just feel grateful about that experience.
Have you ever just fallen into tears unexpectedly by just gazing at Him?
Many times. It's a very natural, I think it's a very natural, spontaneous expression of a heart which is filled with love and gratitude for what He has
Most people would not understand that, though. But when you're with Him, so many people feel that here is some, not only authority, but here's a mother and a father, and there is so much meaning, there's so much depth. I don't know the word for it, but it evokes this crying.
Okay, look at it from this point of view. You have an elderly mother at home, and you visit her once in a year because you are busy in your life, and when you go, you find that she's not keeping well. But as soon as she hears my son is coming after a long time, she gets up and tries to cook something for you. Even though it is inconvenient on her, she gets up, she cooks, and when you come, she feeds herself, and she will sit and look on you. Even though you say, Mom, I will handle it, but she wants to see you eat. And when you see her struggling with her own life, but at the same time, she is doing beyond her physical capacity to make you happy, there is a gratitude of tears which flow when you leave her, and you feel touched that my mom went out of her way to care and show her love to me. That is an expression of a simple mother on a physical level. What Bhagavan Baba represents, if I may say, it's 1,000 times more than that expression, the way He conducts with each one of us. When you step back and you look at it, and when I tell you that each one of us felt that He's ours, you can imagine how much of time and attention He would be giving each one of us to feel that connection that He is ours and I am His. I can go and tell Him anything. I have seen boys go and ask Him, Bhagavan, he was a poor boy, he didn't have any money, and he just said, Swami, I don't have toothpaste. And next time you see that Swami is smuggling softly came and put money in his pocket. He gave him a bag which had filled with toothpaste, toothbrush. Even to that extent, one on one, a boy shivering at night, a very poor family boy, shivering at night in the hostel. He had only a thin blanket on him. He didn't have the guts to tell his father because he realized my father may not be able to afford it. Or even if he could, by the time the blanket reaches him, once the mail goes to him, in those days telephones were not there. So by the time he writes to him and he sends a big blanket for him, it would take a month, and by the time the weather would be changed. He shivered that night, wondering what can happen to him. And next day when you go to darshan, for sitting in the mandir and you're waiting for him to come out for darshan, he had not asked anybody, he had not spoken to anybody, he just shivered quietly. And that evening, Bhagavan comes, he calls him from a window and slides a blanket to him and goes away. There is no conversation. Do you think that boy can ever forget that expression of love?
It happens so spontaneous and human-like,
Human.
except there was the element of omnipresence.
Omnipresence.
Have you seen what is stronger in the experience of the boy? The loving kindness that seems so simple and so direct, or that there is this little touch of something way transcendent that's also coming with it?
I would rather say that when we are experiencing that, most of the time we fail to acknowledge it as superhuman, because he does it so subtly that we don't have time to acknowledge and say, oh, he was omnipresent that time, which comes to us even now after 10, 15, 20 years. When we think back that situation, then we realize that it was an act of omnipresence on his part. But at that moment, when you're experiencing, it is a very, very human, physical, direct relationship in which you get touched by the expression of his love, that nobody in the world could help you at that time when he came with the help.
There's so many stories of Swami's great, miraculous acts, but these almost outweigh it, that he's so personal and so loving, and that you just fall in love with him, and he loves you so much. Well, have you seen some grand, miraculous things also in his presence?
Yes, I have, but honestly speaking, I always wonder if world would ever know what a true Sai Baba is, because what we talk about his hospitals, his water projects, which are amazingly grand in scale, I find they are nothing when we compare to talk about him per se.
The love, the quality of love,
yes,
that really transforms people.
Everybody, the real miracle of Bhagavan is not building hospitals or creating chains and lockets and all that. It is the transformation of heart which he does.
Well, aren't these hospitals and water projects an expression of love? If we don't catch that I'm doing this because I love you and I want you to love fellow man the same way.
Those are certainly an expression of his love. Those are not only expression of his love, they are the guiding light for all of us to follow, how to conduct in life, how to conduct in society. Giving free water, giving free medical care is not joke. So he's putting a precedence, he's showing the way, how to lead. But what I meant by saying that was, that is a very small aspect of Bhagavan Baba. Because that is one expression of his love for the community in mass. But when you want to understand or look at him, that is an ocean in itself. How he touches each one individually, that is amazing.
Do you think that you can actually have this feeling away from Swami also? That is, that if we keep ourselves connected to him, that we will experience something that we know is special and continues to keep that love relationship alive?
See, the beauty of his teaching style is that we learn very fast that he is not that physical form alone. And that physical form itself is so grand and vast that it is not restricted to one geographical location.
Is he present with you? Do you feel that he is a personal living presence in your life, guiding?
Always.
Always?
Always.
Well, how do you come to that kind of conclusion?
Because of my smile. Because,
You're happy.
Yes, I'm always happy.
You feel that he's with you and that he's bringing you this happiness?
And I'll tell you one thing more. It is very strange. I would always be grateful for that to my Lord. Many situations in life which we go through and are still going through, and when we talk to people who know me, they realize that. And we see that if that situation is given to a normal person who's not been exposed to this kind of upbringing, I'm not saying only with Bhagavan, but anybody who has not had this kind of a spiritual upbringing, they would crash. They would either commit suicide, or they would go into drugs, or they would go into different directions. And here, we don't seem to stop smiling. Nothing seems to impact you. And he becomes like a cushion. He carries you through faith.
You carry him away with you when you leave that university. He's with you.
He's always with us. That he shows in many ways.
This transformation, I'm not alone, that divinity actually exists. I believe it's in this form, but people can have it in any form. Swami tells us you can relate to Christ and Allah, Krishna, Buddha, anybody, that this is a reality in life. That there is this spiritual aspect about life that's experienced by your feeling the loving presence with you that makes you smile. So you know this. It comes from personal experience with him. Well, some people are, they say, yes, yes, anybody can, be nice to another person, they like it. Have you seen some sort of startling, miraculous event in the presence of Swami? Does he know other languages? Can he create matter from nothing? People hear these things.
I can tell you like tons of stories about that, and most of the times when he does those things, there is less of dramatization. It is very so casual that it sometimes gives you goosebumps to even think about it.
It's just so spontaneous. It seems like normal.
Like I have seen a paralyzed lady being cured by just his words. I have seen a person with no backbone being tapped and pulled up and walk in front of us. I can narrate those stories, and those are really serious stuff, because that time he shows his power which is beyond human comprehension. Materialization is very simple, but
simple? For a human to materialize an object,
yeah,
it would turn science on its head.
I'll tell you a simple example. One boy asked him very casually, Bhagwan, how do you create? And when you have a genuine question, he responds genuinely. You can't be smart with God. So he said, Bhagwan, can you show me how do you create? Bhagwan said, I created you. He said, Swami, yes, but can you show me something else? He said, sure, what do you want? He said, Swami, anything. I want to see you how you create stuff. Bhagwan pulled up his hand and he said, look at it. Do you see anything? He saw nothing. It was plain hand. So he said, Bhagwan, I see nothing. He said, look clearly in the center. He saw a small bulge in the middle of his palm. Bhagwan he said, Swami, I see some bulge there. So Bhagwan said, catch it. So he tried to catch it with his 2 fingernails, and he said, Swami, I caught it. Bhagwan said, pull it. He pulled, a chain came out. He said, keep it. That's how he creates.
Has he ever given you anything?
Oh yeah, this ring is his.
Tell us the story. How did he give this? What was the situation?
It happened in, I think, 2 years back, 26 January 2007. I don't forget this date. I was in Chennai, and Bhagwan was giving darshan round in Sundaram, that is his residence mandir in Chennai, India. And that day I was leaving that afternoon, and in fact he came around, we showed him a magazine which we had published from the alumni side.
Of the alumni side?
Yeah.
You're involved with the alumni.
Yeah.
How many have graduated from the university?
In the last 25 years, we have over 12 to 13,000 alumni.
13,000?
That's it.
Many in the U.S.?
I would say roughly around 400, 300 to 400.
So, and they're pretty active people, and they're very strong people.
We try to do whatever little bit we can.
So you're giving them an alumni magazine?
I gave a magazine because it was every quarterly we launch that magazine. We have a quarterly magazine. So that happened that he was in Chennai, so we brought it to Chennai to show him, and he called for the magazine. We gave him the magazine, and he blessed that. He took it, and then I said, Bhagwan, I'm leaving today. He said, okay, go. He blessed, and he just did like that. He created and put it on my finger. It's like a mother. Suppose a child comes to your house and says, okay, Dad, I'm leaving today. You would throw in something to him and say, okay, here is a gift from my side. So it's an expression of his love. Yes. I can't say more than that.
It doesn't seem to fit?
Perfect. His things are perfect.
So here you are. You've been affected by Sai Baba's love. And you go into the business world, and now you're moving into a place where you're thinking how to apply Swami's teaching about values in the business world. Do you think there's some potency in Swami's values that the business world could profit from?
I'm a salesman by profession. Like I have been selling like everything under the sun.
Is it your smile? Infectious?
I think this is one of the reasons I can tell you. And I happened to start teaching sales as we went along the line. And I realized over the years why I was effective, why I did what I did.
Do you think that values really has some potency You've been affected by Swami. You know that values are an expression of his love. And how can they be applied to business? You know, business looks like it's a rat race, and it's a struggle, and people are fighting. So how are you going to apply something as sort of spiritual as values to this kind of element? Here you are in business, a graduate of Swami's college, and all of a sudden you get this idea that you want to say something about values, the importance of values in business. How did that come about, and why do you think this would have some relevance to business?
I would say it was a very slow journey towards this. I've changed so many jobs in my career that my resume is very scary. I have to customize resume for everybody differently, and all resumes are correct. So I don't make a false resume, but unfortunately, incidentally, I've worked in different places.
You say all resumes are correct. Well, why do you have you feel a little bit awkward about having worked so many places?
Because if I put it all together, then people will get confused. Because there is a sales element, there is an HR element, there is a training element, there is an event management element, there is a media planning element. So if I put everything together, people say, have you really done all that? But I have done all that.
Yes.
And I've sold electronics, I've sold cars, I've sold buildings.
You've been a car salesman? Straight from Swami's college.
I've been a car salesman. I know it's the worst. In fact, people laugh at it when I say that I'm a car salesman. I was a car salesman. And people, how do you practice values in that? But I'll tell you frankly, values are not something outside of you. And as Bhagavan puts it very beautifully, the business without ethics is not only useless but also dangerous. The point is, these ethical values, they really give you the basis of how a business should be done. Now I'll give a very simple example. In sales, they say that I'm talking about the front runner sales, not a marketing sales, like a car salesman or an electronic camera salesman. There's a line we say that as when a customer walks into your showroom, and from the moment you say hi to him, that's called meet and greet, you have just 3 minutes to make a friend out of him. So you can imagine an unknown person walking into the showroom, the way they train you, sales trainers are amazing, they train you in different ways of how to make a friend out of him, how to crack a joke or how to say a few icebreakers to make people comfortable and drop the guard and accept you as a friend. Imagine a salesman being a friend, dangerous.
So, a car salesman.
Car salesman on top of it.
They have reputations.
They have bad reputation, I know. So they train this. The essence of making a friend, you know what it is? A smile. They say, when you receive a customer, smile genuinely. And when you smile genuinely, they'll open up for you. They make this statement. And I told them, how can you smile genuinely if you have a gun behind you stating that you should rip his pocket off, make a commission out of him. And even if when you know that the person doesn't have money to buy or he's not a buyer today, then how do you expect a salesperson to smile at him? Because we have a chase. This person doesn't want to buy, move, next come in, because commission depends on you. Your whole livelihood is on that. So there is a contradiction in the training. But for me, that came naturally. Even my trainer tells me many times, initially when I was doing that car sales and trainers used to come and they would say, Abhi, you have a wonderful smile and people love you for that. And I told them, this smile is not artificial. This smile is not non-genuine. And when I talk to customers, I'm not looking at their pocket and talking. I'm looking at their need in a real sense. I'm not worried whether this man is going to buy today or not. Whereas I can sell anything. I have sold people crazy, even though they can't afford it, I've sold it. Then I've regretted, like, hey, can you afford it? Because I am a good salesman, I could do that. But then the values part comes into picture, that how I could do that. Because I build that trust in the person, that unknown person can trust you, that whatever I'm telling is truth. And that does not come by artificial training.
Is there the temptation to put aside altruistic values in order for personal gain. Can you sense that in the business world?
Very much. Very much.
And how do you come to terms?
Basically, there are tough situations in life. You have to pay your bills. And especially, I'm a single guy, so, bills are mine, car payments are mine, so I have to pay all that. And in my sales days, I remember very categorically some months would go very dull. You had not made any good sales. So you know that your bills are constant, you have to make those payments, and here the inflow is not there. So that time, the tendency of anybody who comes in the showroom, shut off all the windows and go for the kill. It's a very natural tendency, and that time people don't look at anybody except how much we can squeeze out of each customer who walks in. But in those tough moments of life, the only saving grace, somehow, I don't know, I can't explain that feeling, that I always believe that this sale is not going to feed me. It is not this car which is going to take care of my bills. If bill has to be paid, money would come. But I cannot give up my nature.
Do you think this really is true? That I think Swami is with me and he'll attend to me. I just have to do my duty with correct value. I must do that.
See, this is what he has instilled when we were students.
Are you of the opinion that he can test that and put you just in the situation that you said? Bills are mounting, business is bleak. Now let's see what you do. You have a sense that he actually can construct life that way to see how deep the teaching is.
He can, but let me rephrase that question. I usually don't like to call it as a test from him because he doesn't need to test me. He knows where I stand. Those moments are for me to strengthen my faith in him. So I look at it like that. When I face those situations, I always pray that whatever happens, I should not lose faith in my inner self and in my God, that he would take care of me. And the moment I get that reconviction in my head, in my heart, things open up. Money comes, things change. And surprisingly, I've never had a situation, I had situations, at the 11th hour, things would change. Something would happen.
It's frequently the last minute, isn't it, with Swami?
It's the last
People
minute.
have many stories about the last minute. Abhimanyu, thank you so much for sitting and talking with me. We're here at Idlewild, which is a little mountain town in Southern California, at a Sai Baba retreat, and you're going to be speaking in just a few minutes.
Yeah,
and yet you took the time to sit with us and talk about Swami. I want to thank you very much for the conversation.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Sai Baba.